yeah, just so we have a chance to, for the other folks who can't necessarily join this afternoon. And also if you have questions, just feel free to just throw them out there.
Okay.
So the first thing I wanted just to do is to say congratulations for this week, because I know you had said that it's the first time you're doing something like this. And the first time you do anything is challenging. And, it's like riding a bike. It's like starting a new job. It takes a lot of concentration. It takes a little bit of mental effort just to kind of like sort through all the details. And there was a lot that I gave you guys, a lot of reading material, a lot of recipes, the handbooks, the secondary materials. There's a lot to go through. So, just number one, first off, congratulations for making it to the end.
Well, thank you. Thanks for your help. And I didn't join the Facebook group really till Thursday. I just didn't get around to it. And then I did take a look today, I guess, and I didn't see too much going on. So
yeah, it's a little bit of back and forth. And so the Facebook group is really primarily terrific if you have lots of questions. There are lots of people out there who just kind of need some direction. They kind of need their marching orders, and then they can move forward. And there are other people who really need to know that there are other people out there doing it with them. And then, there's everybody in between. And so the Facebook group is just a nice place to be able to ask questions or say, I'm having a hard day. Can I get some support or whatever? And I'm going to leave the Facebook group open for another week. One other person mentioned that they're going to be repeating this week, just eating the same foods. And so, if you are also interested in doing something like that, the group will stay open so that you guys can make those connections. You can ask lots of questions. If you have questions, tag me. And that will help me to see your comments or your questions. And, we'll try to get you some answers. And I have some pictures, even I keep forgetting to post, of, the different meals. I know Denny, who is one of our other members, is terrific about taking pictures of the food that she makes and then posting them. And I think Natalie did the same thing. And so sometimes it also helps just to see a picture of the recipe so that you can know what it's supposed to look like in the end. But so congrats for getting here. And I hope that you will make sure that you continue through this evening. So don't let your guard down. Let's finish strong today and, go through dinner this evening and our evening activities as if we're still doing the reset full on. And then tomorrow, all those things that you may have been waiting to kind of get back to will be there. But you will have had 5 full days of being able to eat the gluten-free, dairy-free, and sugar-free way. So
I do have a question that we are going to a restaurant tonight for dinner, celebrating some friends' 50th anniversary.
Wow.
And, so it's like, okay. And I think maybe there was an attachment for restaurant eating. I just didn't get to that yet.
Yeah. So in the second email that I sent to you, Marty, there was a document, and it's like a 2-pager. So it's a really quick read. It is called, I think it's,
I want to say restaurant. Yeah.
It's an eating out guide. And
got it. Yeah.
It's how to really look at, like, if you know the restaurant that you're going to be going to this evening, if you can go ahead and look at the menu ahead of time, with your friends, maybe hosting that event, they might have selected several meals to, as something that they're going to offer for the evening. if that's the case, then, you can even say, has this couple selected a certain number of meals, or, the different categories of meals? And if so, what are they? And can I just kind of hear what the menu is? And then you can make some decisions about which item you might pick.
Yeah, and usually like on every menu there's fish, right? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
probably a safe bet. I mean, I usually get salmon when I go out anyway, so maybe I'll do that again.
That's a great bet.
Yeah,
And you can look at things like, if they're serving salad, can you get the dressing on the side? Or, and then that way you have a little bit more control over whether, how much dressing you're going to add. If there's a creamy sauce, can you get it on the side? So you can still have it, but maybe just in a smaller quantity. Or, there may be things that you can ask that they do, like they may say, we could either fry the fish or steam it. Which would you prefer? And then you can make some decisions based on that. So it's great to be able to tap into the menu ahead of time. If you can't do that, just kind of read through that document, and it will talk about the, things that are better choices than others. Let me just see if there's anybody else who's.
Yeah, it says 3. Oh, no, wait, no, that's something else. No,
Yeah.
never mind. I'm looking at the wrong thing. No.
Yeah.
It just says 2 participants. Yep.
Yeah, 2 participants. I just heard a bing, so I
Yeah,
just
me too.
wasn't
Maybe
sure.
it's my crazy computer. So,
So yeah, if you look through the eating out guide, it should give you like just some guidelines so that you have side rails that you can, and quite honestly, if it doesn't work out, it's not going to work out, but you will have at least done it through lunch today and into the evening. And so you will be more mindful, even if there are a choice of drinks for the evening. Even if you have a glass of wine, if you can also maybe have a glass of seltzer or something like that, as as you maybe like a second drink or something.
Yeah, not have as much. Yeah.
Super helpful. And it helps to keep the things that you've already accomplished for this week moving in that same direction. So, it's really important to celebrate the things that you've accomplished this week. And so I really want to make sure we focus on that, and we emphasize that, and emphasize the momentum by thinking about the other things that you could be doing that will incorporate going back to some of the things that you were eating before, but also without losing the gains that you've made.
Right. Well, that's the thing. That's why I was interested to come on this call, because of course you think, okay, so tomorrow's the end. I want to have, a sandwich, and I want to eat a lot of bread. I want to have cookies. And it's like, no, I don't think that's what you're supposed to do. Like, you just kind of ease back into maybe a couple of bad things. But I just wondered, or do you say, look, if you're really craving a sweet, you just have one cookie, I mean, that's the thing with sugar though. When you have a little, you want more, so.
That's exactly right. And that actually is exactly what I wanted to talk about with you, because when you start reintroducing foods, whether it's tonight or tomorrow, it's really helpful if you can kind of pay attention to how your body is feeling with those foods. If you've been eating gluten-free, dairy-free, and sugar-free for the week, and hopefully, people have talked about still having some of those cravings for sugar and carbohydrates. But hopefully, if you've eliminated those, even if you've had some of those cravings earlier in the week, some of those cravings are dying down now towards the end of the week. That's partly because, when we eat sugar, and I think were you in my sugar class?
Yeah, that's where I met you.
Yeah. So we talked about when we eat sugar, what we're doing is really feeding the bacteria in our gut that feeds off sugar. And as we feed that bacteria, it grows. and it grows bigger and stronger, but it also proliferates. And so when we cut out the sugar, those bacteria start to die off. They're not being fed, so they're starving. And that's part of the reason you get cravings, is because they're starving. They want you to feed them. But when you starve them out, they start to die off and they become reduced in number. And so your cravings eventually then go away. I mean, really, I can say I haven't had sugar cravings in a really long time. And my son is going to have a birthday tomorrow. There's a cake for him. I don't want any of it. Like, it's not that I'm denying myself, but I actually don't want any of it because I just
you've learned to live without it.
right. But what happens is, if I would start having a piece of cake or cookies or whatever, that would just start feeding that bacteria and it would start growing again. And so those cravings would become stronger. So, one of the things that's really important after this reset is to just really listen to your body and introduce things if you can. Now, you have a special event tonight, so it may not be possible, but if you can, reintroduce those different foods one at a time. So, for example, tonight, if you decide you're going to try to stay as gluten-free as possible, try to stay as dairy-free as possible, but maybe it is the sugar. Maybe you have a drink, maybe you have some cake to celebrate or something along those lines. Maybe you have a cookie or whatever the dessert is going to be. Just pay attention to how your body's feeling once you have that one thing. And if you can avoid the other things, then what you'll notice is you may not have a craving tonight, it may not kick in, but tomorrow you might wake up and think, I'm really kind of craving some sugar, or I'm really feeling really hungry when I first wake up. And so, the cues that your body will give you over the next couple of days will help to inform you about whether this is a problem food for you or not. You may actually introduce something like dairy and have absolutely no trouble at all, like no bloating, no abdominal discomfort, no change in your skin or your complexion, and no problem with stuffiness or sniffles or anything. Some people get congestion. If you don't have any trouble, no problem. You can do a couple of days of dairy. If there's no concerns, you can move on to the next food and add in the gluten, or whatever order you want to add them in. Just, if you can, do it one at a time. Okay. And with sugar, it's the cravings. You may also notice some joint pain, maybe even some inflammation, like swelling in your joints. Those would be the big ones I would really watch out for with sugar. With the dairy, it is like the abdominal distension or discomfort and some of that congestion. And then, with gluten, it's more that abdominal discomfort. It's sometimes that, those cravings for carbohydrates and things like that. So, just pay attention to whether you're noticing changes in your body or in your mood. Another thing with sugar is sometimes it can impact your mood and make you feel a little bit low, or, you kind of get that rush and then that crash. So just kind of pay attention to that.
Okay. That's helpful. Thanks. Because I was just laughing, thinking, okay, now how do we be smart and come off this without being crazy? Okay, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, sweets, The other question I had is a minor question. When I made that quinoa bean bowl.
Quinoa bean bowl.
I thought, I don't have my paper with me, but I thought it called for a half cup of quinoa. when you were making the quinoa,
Okay.
or maybe it was a cup. But anyway, it made a lot of quinoa. And
It
I was wondering how, once it's made and it's all pretty and fluffy, how much is the right amount of portion? Because I know I loved the quinoa. It was really good.
yeah.
But I probably overate my portion. And I just wondered, once it's made, like, is a portion a half a cup?
So I usually go for, I like to weigh my food because that's a little bit more consistent. Sometimes the measurements like half cup or whatever can be a little bit tricky. If you don't have a food scale though, I would say, so generally it's the size of a tennis ball is
Okay. Or the
is
quinoa?
a good measure. And it's probably a little bit less because for rice, it's a tennis ball, but rice has bigger, fluffier grains, and quinoa is a little bit more
Yeah,
compact.
dense, yeah.
It's actually a
Mhm.
grass. So I would say somewhere between a half and about a half cup to maybe three
Okay.
quarters cup.
Because it made a lot more. I mean, I felt like whatever it was that we were cooking, it made a lot more than one portion.
It doubles it. So whatever you're making, if you make a half a cup, if you measure dry a half cup of quinoa, it will make a full cup once you add the water back. So it's a
Okay.
2-to-1 ratio.
Okay.
It's, it will come to the measure of the water that you added.
Okay. Got it.
That will keep in your refrigerator. And you can also, if you make a really big portion and you can't eat it all in a certain amount of time, put it in your freezer. It freezes really well and you can thaw it pretty easily and just warm it and it will be just fine.
Okay.
It's similar to rice. You can make big batches of like rice or quinoa or even oats, things like that. You can make big batches of those and then divide them into portions and stick them in the freezer. And then all you have to do is pull them out every once in a while.
Mhm.
And you have those extra pre-made, pre-cooked.
Yeah, that's what I did with the oatmeal too, because that made a lot and it was good. I had it probably 2 mornings and then I got rid of it. So it was good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my favorite breakfast in the morning. Although I do eggs a lot as well, but the oatmeal is definitely my favorite. There was something I was going to tell you, something back to, so back kind of to the restaurant idea. I'm going to a virtual Christmas party this evening. And one of the things that we're doing at this Christmas party is we're going to be having a mixologist come on to talk about drinks. And so she's going to make some cocktails and people are going to follow along and try to make the cocktails as well. But one of the things that I'm going to do this evening, because I'm trying to avoid the extra sugar that goes along with cocktails, is I'm going to make myself a mocktail. And I think you got the
email
yesterday.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that I sent that out was I was thinking, well, I'm sure everyone else is facing that same circumstance of having to figure out, like, how can you do a lesser sugary kind of drink, because most alcohol has some sort of a sweetener that goes along with it.
Right.
And if you're looking for a cocktail, a lot of times, especially if you're going out, you can ask your bartender or waiter or whatever to either bring you something that you ask him to kind of create. So you could do something like sparkling water and some lime wedges. I mean, that would be a really simple one. Or you can take the recipe for one of my mocktails and you could even give it to the waiter and say, can I have this instead of another drink? And that is something that they may not have stevia behind the bar in a restaurant, but a lot of times they will accommodate you as far as, kind of making a non-alcoholic drink
Mhm.
and still making it seem fun and special so that you don't have to feel singled out from from everybody else at the party, but you can still kind of have your non-sugary drink.
Mhm.
And that's been a really fun thing to do for me when I go out. It's I will oftentimes have a mocktail version of what everyone else is drinking so that I don't necessarily feel left out. Nobody asked me, hey, what are you drinking? Or, how come you're not drinking with the rest of us?
Mhm.
It just kind of saves you having to explain all that to other people.
Mhm. Okay, thanks. That's good.
So, so thinking about first off, celebrating your win. Second off, looking at just reintroducing the foods one at a time, if possible, and introduce the food. Try it for a day or so as the only food that you're adding back in, the only category of food that you're adding back in, and then see how you feel, and then move on to the next food if you can. If you can't do that, just kind of really pay attention to how you're feeling tomorrow. Say, for example, tonight you have gluten, dairy, and sugar. Feel how your body feels tomorrow. And if you notice that something feels a little off, just go back to the food that you were eating this past week, kind of reestablish that no gluten, no dairy, no sugar, no added sugar. And then when you feel good again, reintroduce the foods more slowly. So you can still kind of do that, Marty.
Okay.
So that's number two, is basically just to reintroduce the foods slowly if possible. Number three, you can eat this way all the time. If this seems to be a way that works for you, this food is just real food, and you can continue to eat this way. You can go back to eating the way you used to eat and just maybe incorporate some of these recipes into your menu. If you just want to kind of like bump up some of the ways that you were eating. So you can do it any combination you want. There's nothing diet-like about this food. It's just real food. And a lot of people from my previous resets will say, oh, this dish now has become our family favorite. And so we still eat dairy, or we still eat gluten, or we still do this or that or the other thing. But now we've added in this one extra healthy meal that, kind of focuses on the gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free. It's sort of like when people who were omnivores just added in like a meatless Monday. You don't have to do it every single day of the week or every meal, but just one or two meals, you can kind of zhuzh up by just, kind of making them this style of meal. The next thing I want to encourage you to think about doing is to really focus on how you're feeling this week, what you really like about how you're feeling this week, or what you're curious about, maybe what's not working quite so well. And if there's one healthy habit that you found yourself doing and enjoying, think about keeping that healthy habit as part of your routine. And that can be anything from drinking the lemon water first thing in the morning and kind of getting your body rehydrated, and adding the lemon juice in as your, to help boost your stomach acid. It can be, going to bed a little earlier, maybe, doing the Epsom salt bath if you're feeling.
Yeah, I haven't done that one yet.
You haven't done that one yet? That's an amazing one. If you like taking a bath, it's super soothing and super relaxing. It will help you fall asleep if you're having any kind of trouble falling asleep. It's a really good one.
Okay.
Mm. drinking more water. That's a big one that over the years I've been working on, is just making sure that I'm getting hydrated enough during the day. Whatever it is, if there's a healthy habit that you liked doing, just pick one, and just try to keep that as you move forward. And then also think about the other habits that you had been doing, and maybe think about the ones that weren't really serving you really well, whether it's something like a cookie in the afternoon, or caffeine a little too close to your bedtime, or skipping breakfast, something like that. Think about something that maybe you're ready to let go of. And if you keep one healthy habit and drop one unhealthy habit, think about where you might be in 3 months or 6 months or a year, and what you might be able to accomplish from that.
That sounds good.
So, yeah. So were there any changes that you noticed over this week in yourself? Were you sleeping better? Did you notice that your skin was plumper? Did you drop any extra pounds? Did you feel like your energy level was any better, or was there anything like that?
I felt my energy level was better, and I did sleep better. And sometimes I will have some intestinal problems, but I did not have any. So that was good.
Awesome. That's great. That's awesome.
So I definitely did notice a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I think, this is only 5 days, and it's a really short capture of time. But if you had some success over the 5 days, I just want you to think about that, and think about that in moving forward. It's really important to kind of remember how what the good things were that you experienced this week, and that you can always return to this way of eating, touch back using these recipes if they were helpful to you. And, if, for example, now, not that this is your issue, but in the past, constipation has been an issue for certain people who have been doing the resets. And say the quinoa beanois dish is a great one for having, upping people's fiber and really getting them to be able to eliminate more regularly. So it's those kinds of recipes you can always go back to, or you can always kind of create your own that are really similar. Just knowing kind of what the bones of the recipe were, if you will. So, and then it's really just thinking about celebrating your wins, really notice how your body's feeling, and know that you can always come back to these recipes if you start to feel sluggish again, or something starts to be a challenge in your diet. If you have some intestinal discomfort and that this week you didn't, you can always come back to this week worth of recipes and just, kind of settle your gut down again, and that sort of thing. So.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
That's it.
You know what? I'm looking at the clock, so I think I've got to go. But
Okay.
I know you want to try to, you're recording this, and I didn't know if there are any other points that you had.
No, these
Oh,
are,
good. Okay.
those are really the points that I wanted to make. And I just wanted to make sure that we answered your questions if you had questions. I will post this for other people to be able to kind of, see some of the guidelines as well. But have a great time this evening at your
Thanks.
dinner. And
Thanks for all your help.
well, and thanks for joining the reset. I'm really glad you did. And I was glad to kind of work with you this week. So.
Absolutely. All right. Well, take care
All right.
now. All right. Have a nice holiday too.
Thank you. You too, Marty.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.